String. The foundation of the Amish approach to dental health is not a remedy, a rinse, or an herb. It is food. Traditional Amish households consume very little processed sugar, very little refined flour, and almost no commercially packaged or preserved food. What they eat instead are whole foods, raw or minimally processed dairy, eggs from pasture-raised hens, vegetables grown in their own gardens, fermented foods like sauerkraut and pickled beets, and slow-cooked meats and broths made from whole animals. Nothing is wasted. Nothing comes in a wrapper with a list of ingredients 20 words long. This matters enormously for teeth. The bacteria most responsible for tooth decay, primarily a strain called Streptococcus mutans, feed on fermentable carbohydrates, especially refined sugars. When sugar is scarce in the diet, those bacteria produce less acid. Less acid means less erosion of the tooth's enamel surface, and less erosion means the tooth's own natural repair mechanisms, working steadily through saliva and available dietary minerals, actually have a fighting chance to keep pace with the damage rather than fall further and further behind. Weston Price, a dentist who traveled across 6 continents in the 1930s studying the diets and dental health of isolated traditional peoples, documented something that stopped him cold. Communities eating their ancestral, unprocessed diets showed dramatically lower rates of cavities and tooth deformity compared to members of the same communities who had recently adopted modern sugar-heavy foods. The difference was not genetic, it was dietary. The Amish, in many ways, still live closer to the nutritional patterns Price studied than almost any other group in the United States today. Their low sugar intake is not a dental strategy. It is simply how they eat. But the dental outcome is hard to ignore. If you are finding this useful and you want to keep learning about traditional practices that still hold up today, take a second to drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. We love hearing from our community. Here is what most people genuinely do not know about cavities. A cavity does not begin as a hole. It begins as a patch of weakened, demineralized enamel, sometimes visible as a chalky white spot, sometimes invisible to the naked eye, where acid has started to draw calcium and phosphate out of the tooth's crystalline structure. At that stage, before the enamel has fully broken down and before bacteria have reached the softer layer of dentin beneath, the process can be meaningfully slowed. In some cases, it can be reversed. The tooth can rebuild itself. That process is called remineralization, and it is not alternative medicine. It is basic dental biology. Saliva is the body's primary remineralizing agent. It carries calcium, phosphate, and specialized proteins that deposit minerals back into softened enamel throughout the day. The conditions have to be right. The mouth needs to spend more time at a neutral or slightly alkaline pH than in an acidic state. That means fewer sugar exposures, more time between eating, and steady mineral intake through food. Frequent snacking, even on foods that seem harmless, keeps the mouth in a state of constant low-level acid exposure and interrupts the repair window that saliva needs. The Amish do not use the word remineralization. They do not frame their habits in clinical language. But the conditions their daily life creates, infrequent snacking, low sugar exposure, mineral-dense food, physical outdoor labor, map almost precisely onto what modern research describes as favorable for enamel repair. This is not coincidence. It is what happens when a traditional food culture survives intact across many generations. Beyond diet, Amish households have relied on a set of specific home practices for generations. Oil pulling is among the oldest. The practice involves swishing a tablespoon of unrefined oil, typically coconut or sesame, around the mouth for 10 to 20 minutes each morning before eating or drinking, then spitting it out. The reasoning across many traditional cultures that practiced it independently is that the oil reduces the bacterial load in the mouth. Some early research does suggest that oil pulling can lower measurable counts of Streptococcus mutans and reduce markers of oral inflammation, though it works best as a complement to brushing and dietary care rather than a standalone solution. In traditional Amish households, it is simply part of the morning routine. Clove oil has been used for centuries to manage tooth pain and limit oral infection. The active compound in clove, eugenol, has genuine antiseptic and mild analgesic properties. That is not folk belief. Eugenol is, in fact, the basis for certain dental cements still used in professional settings today. A small amount applied carefully to an aching or sensitive area can reduce discomfort and may help limit bacterial activity around an affected tooth. Simple, inexpensive, grounded in real chemistry. Salt water rinses round out the core home practice. Salt water temporarily raises the pH of the oral environment, making it less hospitable for acid-producing bacteria. Reduces inflammation in the soft tissue surrounding the teeth, and supports gum health. These practices are not dramatic. None of them involves a complicated preparation or a rare ingredient. That is part of why they have lasted. One of the least discussed factors in dental health, and one that Amish dietary patterns happen to address, is the role of fat-soluble vitamins, particularly vitamins A, D, and K2. Weston Price identified a nutrient he called activator X in the foods of the healthy traditional populations he studied. Decades later, researchers identified it as vitamin K2, a compound that works alongside vitamins A and D to direct calcium into bone and tooth tissue rather than allowing it to accumulate in soft tissue or arteries. Without adequate vitamin D and K2, calcium absorbed from food may not reach the teeth in any meaningful way. Amish diets are naturally rich in these nutrients without any intentional effort. Grass-fed butter and full-fat dairy from pasture-raised animals contain meaningful amounts of vitamin K2. Eggs from hens with access to sunlight and insects contribute vitamins A and D. Time spent outdoors, working fields, tending animals, and building in natural light supports vitamin D synthesis through sun exposure across the entire year. These are not supplements or targeted interventions. They are the ordinary, unremarkable byproducts of a farming life lived close to the land. Bone broth, simmered slowly from whole animal bones for many hours, contributes collagen precursors and trace minerals that support both tooth structure and the health of the gum tissue that anchors each tooth. Many Amish families consume it regularly, not as a health trend or a therapeutic choice, but as the natural result of using an animal fully and letting nothing go to waste. The broth is a byproduct of thrift. The dental benefit is a byproduct of the broth. None of this is a promise that a cavity can be fully reversed once decay has progressed into the dentin or deeper. At that stage, professional care is necessary and genuinely important. But the earliest phase of tooth decay, that softened and demineralized enamel that precedes a true hole, is more responsive to conditions than most people have ever been told. The Amish did not discover anything new. They simply never stopped doing something old. Eating real food, limiting sugar, using simple remedies, and giving the body the raw materials and the time it needs to do its own quiet work. Sometimes the oldest approach is also the most enduring one.